Welcome to the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. I'm your host, Simone Morris, and I have a passion for empowering others to take responsibility for their careers. Yes, I've written several books on owning your career and am loving hosting this podcast. This podcast is for you if you're willing to make a shift to the driver's seat in your career. We feature leaders who inspire, empower, and motivate you for consistent career action for results. Please continue to join us every Sunday when a new episode is released. Let's get into this week's show. I have the delightful honor of bringing to the podcast the lovely Symes. I am so thrilled to be talking about careers and women's empowerment with her, as she so eloquently put it, no women left behind. Let's get into the conversation, Symes. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Simone. Seriously, so grateful. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely, no problem. So, Symes, let me start by asking you to tell our listeners about how you found your voice. How did you find your voice?
Great question. I would say I found my voice. The first really striking time was when I was about 15 years old. And I was waiting for my careers interview, my careers guidance interview in high school. And I'd had this piece of paper in my hand for hours. You know, it was soggy with sweat. This time in this room I had to go to in school to meet what I believed this woman was going to change my life, you know, and she was going to set me on the right path, and she was going to tell me everything I needed to do to have my career, my purpose realized, right? So I finally went. It was late afternoon. I went, I handed her the piece of paper. I remember it being soggy. You know, I'd just been so excited about meeting this woman. And I'm 15, and she looked to me about, I don't know, she looked about 80, you know, 80 years old. She had like purple hair, and not that it was groovy purple hair, but purple hair back in the day when it was like permed, and she had pearls on, and she had this twin set, and she had glasses on a chain, like, you know, hanging from her. You know, she was very kind of like stern looking. And she said, okay. And she said, okay, tell me what it is you want to be. And I said, I want to be an actress. That was what I'd been doing, school plays and church plays for years, you know, putting it together, getting people together to be on stage. I did the production, I did the marketing, I did the everything. And what I realized looking back, what I was creating, Simone, was an opportunity for everyone to have a voice on stage. And I didn't realize that at the time. And I didn't, you know, I didn't play the principal character, you know, at all, because I loved everybody having a chance at that. And as long as with the school we had to have a moral at the end of the play, the school just gave me free launch. So I wanted to be an actress, is what I thought I always want to be. So sat in front of this woman who was going to change my life, handed her my piece of paper which said actress, and she laughed. She sat there and she laughed, and she said, now, quote verbatim, she said, now, dearie, let's get our feet firmly on the ground, shall we? And she pierced something, Simone, deeply inside of me, that I realized at that point we need to help, especially young people. And when I was working with young people then, young people to have their voice. And something was pierced of, I will never, when I'm a grown up, I will never ever shut a young person down like she just shut me down. And because I didn't have a tribe of people around me to support me in this fabulous vision of being an actress, I I probably wouldn't have made it anyway, because you hear all the stories, that you get, rejected time and time and time again. In this very first rejection, I pivoted away from that. It was my dream. I gave my power away in that moment to this woman. I looked around in my own tribe of my family and people in my life. Nobody was willing to say, yes, we can do this, Sand. I believe in you. Let's do this. This is what you need to do. And I ended up going to secretarial school because my mum said, if you can type, you will always have a job. So I ended up in
And it's true, actually.
Well, now I'm so grateful on the keyboard, right? Um, and then the beauty of this story is years later, so I was 15 then, 15 years later, I was having another career interview with an adult careers advisor, and they said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I want the job that you have. I want to go and work in," and I'd got my two children had come along by then. I said, "I want to work with young people and be an inspiration for them and motivate them, whatever they believe in that they can do. I want to be a voice for that." And I ended up training as a careers guidance counselor in high schools. And whatever they sat in front of me with a little piece of paper and told me they wanted to be an astronaut, and I knew the grades were never going to make to be an astronaut, it was like, but tell me why that is important to you. What is it about that job that you love? Tell me who you are. And I have to say, I was an incredible careers guidance counselor because of that. That I really, really, it was like no dream is too big to have, that we can have an aspect of that somewhere in our life. So,
Oh, what a wonderful story. There's a couple of things that come up for me. One is I immediately think of the four agreements and how sometimes when people give us messages, it's really about them and not about us.
yeah.
Because I've had a similar experience where I wanted to be a buyer when I was growing up, and I applied for the Macy's Leadership Development Program because I just knew I was going to get in and I was going to travel the world and be a buyer, and I didn't get in, and I was devastated,
Mm,
devastated. And
yeah.
I did what you did. I pivoted and
Mm-hmm.
went down a completely different path. So I
Mm,
think sometimes these lessons are good lessons, and if we really do want it, we go back to it. I remember being discouraged about being a teacher, but today in the work that I do, I am a teacher. So I love to hear that story, and how wonderful that you got to go back and impact lives based on this very impactful data point in your life
mm.
at 15. That's amazing. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, thank you. It is a great story, but as you say, it's a lived experience, and that pivoting that you spoke of, with them, and it's so alive in me, Simone, when you were speaking your story, it's like, I know how you felt that moment when you didn't get it, that devastation that we feel at that time. And how old were you then when you had that experience?
I had just gotten out of college, so that I may have been like 19, or I mean, it was what age did I enter college? Like 16 or 17. So it
Yeah,
had to be 19/20.
right,
But I, like you, I didn't have people around me that said, that's just one place. Keep
right,
applying. I
right.
was just devastated because I had put all my eggs into that basket, and I just knew, because I had interned there, I just knew I was going to get into the program, and then that was going to launch me into some other, place. But I was sort of chuckling when you were talking because I remember getting the advice about being a secretary. That's why I can relate to what you're saying, because my first year I had a D in typing, but then I was told you got to get really good at this. And so I ended up doing stenography and all these things to build
Wow.
my skills as a secretary. But anyway, so
It's so important, isn't it, about the tribe, the people around us. And your first your question was saying about finding your voice and the stage thing, the actress thing. It was to find to help other people find their voice, including myself, and find other, to helping other people to find their voice. And even then at 15, I was building a tribe. You'd have thought on the external looking in, oh, she's putting a play on the moral of this story is, love thy neighbor. I don't know, some ridiculous thing like that. But I just loved the characters and pulling it together. And I was building a tribe that believed in each other, that we could do it. But I didn't know that at the time, and how and now, like you, it's like you are a teacher, Simone. You're a living, breathing, not in a classroom, because you're probably making more of a difference now in this, what you're doing now with the podcast, the reach that you've got, the voice that you are, the desperately voice that we so need women to believe that the message that you carry is vital for us now. And maybe in a classroom as a teacher, you'd have had, I don't know, 60 students every year or something coming through the program. And now your reach is so much bigger. I do believe that there's, like you're saying, there's some bigger intelligent, thank God, at play, that is playing us, saying, no, you have to have these experiences in the pivots, in the devastation, but there's a reason for that. And you won't know it at the time when you were 18, 19, I was 15, but we get to look back and go, holy moly, that moment changed my life, but I didn't know I didn't know at the time what it would be changed to as, and what that moment was outside of the devastation we felt at the time.
Yes, there are pivotal career moments that we don't know at the time, or we don't understand, and then it makes sense down the line. So absolutely. And I will be back in the classroom this month. Actually, I'm not sure when this episode will air, but I'll be back in the classroom. I'll be teaching a leadership class this month. So but as we talk about tribes, it seems to me that in terms of being successful in your career, that a community slash tribe is a part of that ingredient. So tell us about what you consider to be your formula for successfully owning your career. What are the necessary ingredients?
Great questions. I tribe is an ingredient to me. And then there's ingredients within ingredients. Having the right people around me I've realized it is probably one of the most important ingredients and components to being to being a woman in a leadership role, or being a woman that has a voice, or a platform that she can influence, inspire, or motivate others. But I need it, Simone. We were speaking before, I need it. It's like I can keep pouring out, but I need to be supported. And I need strong, especially women, I need strong women around me saying, you're so off here, Sand. You're going in a completely wrong. Who are you right now? Where is this coming from? Who can be a strong, sacred mirror for me, if I'm moving away from a lived value that we've all agreed on. Because I've got my blind spots, I've got my ego, I've got my illusions, I've got my dark side, my shadows. So I really, I want that. I yearn for that. I long for that. I don't just want cheerleaders, clapping, yes, you're doing a great job, when I'm not. Or knowing that I could do it in a different way. Or, hey, Sand, have you noticed in your community that which came out certainly in the middle of 2020 with George Floyd's murder. I had to take a massive serious look at our community. I'm a white woman. Our community is predominantly white. And it's like, what am I doing as a white woman with this platform to help and encourage my sisters of color, my sisters with brown skin, my sisters with black skin? And we have a beautiful percentage of women in our community. And I was on this pivot point, Simone, of I will go and ask my sisters of color, that usual, like, white woman, white skin. Let me go and ask the women of color over here what you want. And I've done 18, nearly 20 years of white privilege work. And I still nearly pivoted to go to ask. That's how deeply ingrained this work needs to be made aware of. So I want women around me that look differently than me, that have different backgrounds to me, that have a different way of seeing the world than me. So I can embrace those differences all the way through the work that I do, the woman that I am, the woman that I'm becoming, and continuing my work, so I can keep pivoting and have strong sacred mirrors around me. So if it got lost in translation, forgive me, but tribe is a huge component. And the other one is faith. I there has been times in my life where I felt God left me, spirit left me, that being on my knees in absolute desperation, suicidal moments in my life, where the only thing that kept me here on this earth was faith. That I had a strong connection to spirit, a strong connection to my ancestors, a strong connection to the ancestral line of the women in particular that had worked so hard for me to be walking on this earth today. So I, choking in my voice right now, so grateful to those ancestors. So I would say faith and contribution and determination. Um, and I want to be careful with that word, because in the past I was taught to arise with the components of determination in competition. When I look around the world, my world, we swim in this patriarchal system. So it was like determination was to compete against men and women in my life. Determination was putting myself first at the cost of other people around. I had to win. And what I was doing as a young woman growing up, I was forever looking for my father's approval. So I wanted to be my father's daughter. Please love me. If I'm successful, it's going to look like this, and you'll be proud of me. And so there was a competitive edge that was instilled in me at a very young age from my father, because that was his way. My father had literally dragged himself through and out of poverty, and education was his doorway. So he was a huge educator for us, that educate yourself to get yourself out of poverty. And I didn't go to college when I left school, because I have a huge fear of exams. I can't sit in an exam. I start to sweat profusely, get so nervous, and my anxiety would go through the roof. But again, I didn't know that at the time. So I failed exams, spectacularly failed exams. But my coursework and my intelligence was intact all the rest of the year. But, again, a system that only measures us in an exam, and not for the whole year that we've been in college or in school. So I didn't go to university till I was 29. And I was a young single mom of two kids when I put myself through university. So I didn't have the usual go to high school, go to college, go to university. And felt for the longest time I'd failed my father because I wasn't clever enough. But at 29, I finally opened the door to university. And then went in twice. I'm still trying to get my father's approval. So one degree wasn't enough. I needed two.
So what was the pivotal moment that allowed you to revisit education and to enter, because the obstacles of being a student and a mom at the same time, it's even tougher. But you did it not once but twice. So what were you saying to yourself, and what is the thing, the push that made you enter into education?
I wanted to be the careers advisor. I'd gone to have the interview at 29. And the adult careers advisor, she was sat in front of me. She was so much nicer than my 15-year-old careers advisor experience. And she was asking me a lot of questions, and I was looking for purpose, Simone. I was kind of sat in front of her saying, I don't know what I want to be or do, but I know that it has to involve young people in some way, especially marginalized young people. Um, what can I do? What careers are available to me? I left school at 16. I've only got a high school diploma. What can I do? And at that time, in the first time in the history, in the whole of the UK, they opened the door, two universities opened their doors to take mature students into the careers guidance program, as long as you could pass an exam. So Sand again started to panic with my sweat. Oh no, not another exam. Sit an exam and several interviews and an assessment, because it was a postgraduate diploma. So the kids, that young people that were on that, heading in that direction, had got a degree, but they opened the doors to 10% of mature adults who, because they wanted mature people in schools advising and guiding the young people, right? The 21-year-olds and 22-year-olds hadn't had a lived experience yet of work. They'd just been in education. So, and she said, it's just open. And I said, I want to do your job, but I don't have a degree. And she said, I can't believe your timing is perfect. So let's tick that box of faith again, knowing that we are looked after at some point in this beautiful cosmos. And I sat with the interview, and I actually said to the head of the Manchester Careers Guidance unit, if you don't let me on this course, I am going to pitch a tent on the car park until you let me on this course. And he said, wow, that's a lot of determination, going back to my component of determination. And he said, why, what has you speak so, clearly and so, passionately about that? And I burst into tears in the interview, and I told him my story of my 15-year-old interview. And I said, I never, ever want to be that careers advisor. We need to have people in the system that believe in our young people, regardless of their background, the color of their skin, the marginalized. And when I went into the careers service, because I did, my success story is I got in, and very quickly I started to pivot and move into this is the voice thing again. I wanted to find the places where people didn't have a voice, and the places for young people who didn't have a voice were special needs children, any disability that we had in our field with young people didn't fully have a voice, and our diversity. So I chose to work in Moss Side, Manchester, which is a very, very, very incredible place in the northwest of England, where there was so much crime. We had, because of the riots, because of race. And I wanted to work in that environment, in that in those universities and those schools, to help our young people of color to have a voice.
I think that's what I'm going to name your episode. Have a voice. If you were to name your body of career work, what would the title be?
Find your voice.
So then,
But then use it, Simone. It's like, find it. It's like, it's almost like a disservice saying find your voice. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit here. It's this, claim your voice and use it, because we've all got a voice. And find a tribe of people that can help you find your voice and use it, because it can be so scary, thinking that, who's going to listen to me, who I have. And then especially for women, and especially for any marginalized group, to find your voice, it's like, are you kidding me? Do you know the generations that sat on, where I've not felt allowed to even speak, and then to speak, you're asking me to speak up, and you're asking me to tell you what I really feel. You want to really know what's inside. How long have you got? And if you are really truly encouraging, especially women, to have their voice, it's going to come out murky, it's going to come out clumsy, it's going to come out blood, snot, and tears. It's going to come out enraged. It's going to come out, it's going to sound like sometimes like a victim, sometimes like anger, sometimes like desperation. It's going to be loud, it's going to be snotty, it's going to be clumsy, it's going to be all those things, because we haven't had time on this earth yet to even practice speaking clearly with a voice. We have men that say, why do you use 500 words to say one sentence? It's like, because I'm still in a school playground practicing to find my voice, because it's sat underneath so much emotion and so many things that I've wanted to say, but nobody has encouraged me to speak.
I've got to tell you, Sand, when you were answering that question, and listeners, I have the opportunity to see Sand while she's answering these questions. I got in my mind a play of you sharing that message, and that information felt like it should be delivered in play form. And I thought to myself as I listened, she is an actress, this or a playwright or something, but that's what popped into my spirit when you were answering that question.
I've arrived.
Indeed.
I got the job.
Indeed.
I think that I think the actress part, I mean, there's so much in that, I wanted to be special, I wanted to be seen, I wanted to be loved, all of those things that would be the ingredients that are behind why I wanted to be an actress, which is what I brought to that body of work as a careers advisor. Whatever a young person said to me they wanted to be, I knew intuitively behind it, they were looking to have a need met somewhere. So whatever it said on the tin, I want to be an architect, I want to be a this, what are the needs that were behind that? So I intuitively knew that that was there. And I and thank you for saying that. If that was a play, and I have an incredible opportunity in my work today, as especially being on Zoom, to be on a TV camera every day, right? But to be that strong sacred mirror, to see another sister who might not be speaking, or she's speaking and it's a bit clumsy, and we say things like, I'm so sorry, I'm taking a long time to answer. It's like, girl, you can take all the time you need. You can slow it down, and what is going on here. So we all get to be these actresses, we all get to play the character in our own play, which is our life.
I love that. I love that. So, are there resources that you feel would be helpful to our listeners on this career journey? I talk a lot about the driver's seat, which really means it is about finding your voice. It means standing in your truth and really being responsible for your career, your outcome, being in control of that instead of letting others dictate your path. And that's what I'm about. So, talk to me and the listeners about resources that would be helpful to them on this journey.
I would love, love, love to invite all of your listeners, including you, Simone, to be part of our Rise as She community, to take that bold invitation right now, or any community. I'm here with an invitation for you, for your listeners, to join us in Rise as She, and if not Rise as She, please, I'm almost begging your listeners, find a tribe, find a group of people, they've got you, Simone, right? So they can listen into your podcast and get inspired and motivated with everything that you do. So where else can they find that motivation, that inspiration, that they can keep going? As women, we know in our journeys, your life journey, Simone, what I know about you and my life journey, we can sometimes give up if we haven't got a tribe, a community of people around us to keep us going. When we fall, who's around us that can say, I've got you, come on, you lean on me for a while. The ones that, the people around us, the tribe and the community of sisters that can be around us, that can say, hey, you, where do you go to ask for help? I've got this. I know somebody that can help you with that. So you're continuing your journey in your driver's seat when we fail sometimes to put the key in and turn the ignition on. Is that, who can somebody come in to the passenger seat and put the key into my vehicle and turn my ignition on to help me to keep going? Or if there's a time when I'm I need to stop, that a sister can come in and say, I'm going to take your key out of your ignition right now because you, girl, need to rest. So who's going to plug us in, and who's going to tell us that when we need to unplug and look after ourselves? So I I honestly believe the sisterhood in particular. I know we've got our brotherhood, and we need our brothers and our support for sure. And yet for women to find a group, a tribe of sisters that can keep you going in your deepest, darkest moments, who can be ecstatic for you, who can say, stand on my shoulders. You want this, girl? Stand on my shoulders and I'll help you get it. No competition, no woman left behind. Back to the mantra that I'm taking into 2021, no woman left behind. Like, let's really, if do we really mean that, then what is that going to take for us to leave no woman left behind?
Oh, I feel like that's how we need to wrap up, because it's so powerful that you almost need to meditate on that note, what that means to you and how you can have an impact. And I love that, no woman left behind. Sand, it's been such a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Please tell our listeners how they can stay connected with you.
Thank you. Through listening to this podcast, on this gorgeous lady Simone's podcast. And if they want to keep in contact, it's on the website. And again, that invitation to come into the community of Rise as She, and come in as my guest. Come and take a month with us. We have 3 live events a month. We have a sacred circle where we share. We have a teaching every month, and this month it is your purposeful self. How do I find my purpose, live my purpose, be on purpose is our January theme. And we also have our 3rd live event is we do shamanic breath work, which might feel a little bit like, what did she just say? What is she talking about? But trust me in that, of a way that we can stay connected to our ancestors, a way that we can stay connected to this incredible cosmos of intelligence that we can call God or Goddess or life or my higher self, my deepest truth, universal, divine mother, whatever word is right for whoever, Allah, Buddha, whatever, that we can connect to that and pull that energy and pull that resource in. Then you are never, ever, ever doing this by yourself. You've got all your ancestors behind you. And I can help you tap into that and connect with those ancestral lines so that you can take the wisdom from all the people, the thousands of your ancestors that walked on this earth at any one time, to have you be here as a living, breathing entity of that lineage that you're a part of. So be my guest, please, for the month of January. Any one of your listeners, we would be absolutely delighted and thrilled, and a deep privilege to have any one of your listeners join us, Simone.
Wonderful. Well, please repeat the website so that our listeners can definitely have the website.
Thank you. It's www. And it's my name. It's Sand, like sand on the beach, Sand, Symes, SYMES.com. And for Simone's listeners, and she'll have this, we have a code, which is Owning Your Career coupon code for your listeners, Simone, so we can so they can get that month free anytime they might need it. So it doesn't have to be just January. If you don't need me right now, that's cool. Come in whenever they need us, and that code will always be honored for your listeners.
Wonderful. Well, again, Sand, you have my thanks for being a guest on the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Simone. You're amazing. Thank you.
I sincerely hope that you enjoyed this week's empowering career story on the podcast. If you did, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. Wherever you listen to the podcast, be sure that you are subscribing and that you rate and review the podcast. It's so important as we continue to spread the word of career empowerment. In addition, you can head over to the LinkedIn platform and join the Power of Owning Your Career discussion group. There you can have access to the guests who have been on the podcast, as well as others listening to the podcast, as well as myself, where we can continue the conversation. I hope to see you on that platform. You can also email me at pooyc@simonemorris.com if you have a suggestion for guest or a message that you want me to hear personally. Thanks so much, and make it an inspiring, empowering week in your career.